What's up guys, Andrew here, and in this video I'll show you how to set up OBS for Twitch streaming. Let's get into it. All right guys, let's get into it. The first thing you want to do is you want to find out your upload speed, right? So you want to find out what that is. So go to a speed test website, and once you get there, just run that particular speed test and it'll give you a number based on what that is for your situation. It could be 6 megabytes, it could be 8, 12. So depending on what that particular speed is for you, it's going to tell you the results for that. It's going to give you the download megabytes per second. It's going to give you the upload megabytes per second. So what you want to focus on is the upload megabyte per second. And then we're going to use that to determine foundationally what's the best thing that we should consider for our particular setup. So right now it's going on. And of course, this is to use by way of an example. It's pointing to around 9 megabytes per second. Okay, so about 9 megabytes per second, which is pretty much plenty. So what I've seen is anything above 2 megabytes per second for the upload is you can work with that. So we have 9.11 megabytes per second. And note also, when you're running this particular test, it is best to run it on a machine that is plugged into your router, right? That is not done over Wi-Fi. And you also want to make sure that all the Wi-Fi machines are not currently running. So the best way to do that is to disconnect the Wi-Fi section of your router if you have access to that information. And then from there, or you can just make sure you run the test very late at night when nobody is using those Wi-Fi devices. So that's the best way to do that. So that's the first step. The first step is to get your upload speed. All right, so now that we have our upload speed, the next thing that we want to look at is what kind of visual resolution that we want to offer to our viewers, right? So let's look at that right now. So on this website, stream.twitch.tv/encoding, it gives you the information about the encoding for the particular bit rate that you want to serve, as well as the fact that we have our upload speed. We can better determine what we want to offer, right? So with 9 for the upload, we can pretty much do anything here as it relates to the bit rate that we want to offer. We can do 4,500, we could do 6,000. Twitch maxes out at 6,000, so you wouldn't want to do anything more than that. But we can do pretty much anything here. What's up guys, I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are enjoying this video, please like and subscribe, and let's get back into the video. Okay, so if we are doing the encoding for the standard X264 and we're running 720, let's say you want to do 720, which I believe is divisible by 8 or something like that, which I need to double check that particular bit of information. If it is, then your eye will be very pleased with that particular resolution on the screen. So you want to do, by way of resolution, you want to do either 16 by 9, anything that's 16 by 9 you want to have. So the 1280 by 720 is good. And obviously 16 by 9 is up here. You can do that. And you can also do 1920 by 1080. And if you realize that you're dropping frames in OBS, you might want to go down to either 16 by 9, or you can stick with the 1280 by 720. So we know that we have at least 9 megabytes for the upload that we can work with. And let's just use X264 for an example, because not everyone has the NVENC information, right? So let's just use X264 as an example, and then we'll talk about the NVENC in a second, okay? So if we're running the X264 and we want to do 720, and we have a lot of fast-paced games, then what you want to focus on is somewhere in this range here. 6,000 with this information is all the information that goes into the OBS, which we'll look at in a second. Okay. So if you want to do regular games at 60 frames that are not fast-paced games at 720, then you want to look at something like this here. 60 frames here, you could do 4500, constant bit rate, the frames that you want, and then the intervals for that information. Okay, you want to do that. Okay, and if you want to go all out, because you have the speed, the power to do that for your machine, then you can do the 1920 by 1080 at 6000 because we have the upload speed for that. CBR, you can do constant bit rate, 60 frames, and then, you know, go from there. So this information here is the information that you're actually going to put in your OBS, right? So you decide based on the encoder that you have. If you have the ability to use the NVENC encoder by NVIDIA, then you would use that because it takes the load off of the machine and just focuses it on the actual GPU, right? So if you look here, it says encoding can be taxing on your system. X264 will utilize a lot of your CPU, resulting in lower FPS. Alternatively, GPU encoding, right? If you have the opportunity to do that, utilizes a dedicated encoder in the GPU itself, allowing you to play and stream without compromising game performance, right? So if you have the option to do that, then you would put the information on the left side according to what you're playing. If you're playing fast shooters and stuff like that, you do a 900p setup here for that, or a 720 60 frames, you do a setup like that on this side. So depending on the opportunity that you have with the system that you built, you can either use the standard X264 or you could use the NVENC option if your GPU allows it. Okay, so that's how you would decide if you want to pick either the NVENC if it's an option or the X264 if that's an option for you. All right, so another thing you could do is called a Twitch test, and there's a website for that. So when you go to r1ch.net/project/Twitch test, it'll bring you to this website. Twitch test is a free open source program that allows you to easily measure your upload speed to each Twitch server. Picking a server with sufficient bandwidth, low RTT, and a high quality rating will ensure the best results when streaming to Twitch. So you want to have this information in advance. Now, I fully understand that you could just run the auto wizard on OBS, but we're not doing that because we want to go in with the data so it's easy for us to maximize our settings. You could easily run the auto wizard on OBS, I get it, but we want to have information, we want to have actual data that we can work with, so we're not playing a guessing games with OBS when we're putting the information in. So here's the Twitch test. So I ran this test and I want to show you the results that I got for this. So let's just go to this folder here and grab that, okay? So when I ran this test, okay, for Twitch test for this bandwidth thing, it said that the lowest RTT for me was the US East server, right? So the thing, this shows 11 ms, right? The next one close to that will be Canada, right? I think I'm looking that correctly, at 20 ms, right? And it also said something about having a high quality server. Okay, so we know based on the numbers here at 100, the Mexico, Canada servers are really good. Ashburn, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Miami, New York are ideal for me. Great servers, right? But for low, okay, so I can actually correct myself on the fly here. So it would be 11 here, 19 here, and then 20. So I can't really go wrong if I pick either the New York, the Ashburn, Virginia, right? Or the Canada, Quebec, right? I can't go wrong if I pick those servers. Now, in OBS, it gives you an option to just pick a flat recommended. But if I want to know specifically what's ideal for me based on the data I already have, then I would either pick the lowest or one of these three. So for me, it would either be New York or Quebec, right? Or Ashburn, Virginia. Okay, so once you run this test, it'll give you exactly the server that you should be using for your setup. And I think that once you have that data, it's much easier to have the information to put in OBS. So that's how you know what server to use for OBS. All right, guys, one of the tests that you can run in OBS is to get an accurate measure for upload, bandwidth, and ideal resolution and frame rate. I did not want to run this test very early on, but we can actually run it now. So if you do Tools, Auto Configuration Wizard, it'll ask you if you want to optimize for streaming or if you want to optimize for just recording. So let's just run this test now. Even though we have data already, let's just run it to see what it would give us for the stuff, right? So let's go to next. So my base canvas is 1920 by 1080. We can do 60 frames, or we can do 30 frames, or we can prefer high resolution, or whenever the resolution, the frame rate is when possible for the 60. So let's just do 30 frames. I want to see what it's going to say for 30 frames. So let's hit next. And then it says use stream key, or, okay, so let's use stream key. And now we have some information already, right? So we know for a fact that we have at least 9 megabytes for the upload, right? So do you prefer hardware encoding? Because I have an option. So preferring hardware encoding, which would be for my GPU, so I could run NVENC, or I could run X264, which would be the regular encoding, right? Which would not be my GPU. So let's prefer hardware encoding. We're going to leave that checked. And then over here, so let's see what it says here. Hardware encoding eliminates most CPU usage. Okay, exactly. Okay, so you can estimate the bit rate here, but we don't have to estimate the bit rate because we already know what we have in terms of data that we already collected, right? So we know for a fact that we have at least 9 megabytes for the upload. So if I uncheck that, I can actually put in what I would desire, right? So since we know we have 9, let's do this at 6. Okay, and then we're gonna let it run. Okay, so now it tells me that with the information that I have, I could run the New York server, right, at 6,000 with NVENC at high quality for the recordings. Okay, my base resolution is 1920 by 1080, same for my output at 30 frames, and then once I apply the settings, I'll be good for that. So now if I go into my settings, it will show that that information is set up for that recording. So 6,000 hardware, 128 for the audio bitrate, which is standard internet bitrate by now, high quality for the recording section, and that information is set so you can do it that way. Okay, now so we're set up. Okay, but if I wanted to be very, very particular about how I want the setup to run, I can go into the settings and just go to the advanced section, right? So if we do from simple to advanced, we can put in some of the information that we saw in the page from here. Okay, which talked about the NVIDIA NVENC stuff specifically, which I mentioned earlier, or the X264 stuff that I mentioned earlier, right? So we picked a side that we want to go with based on the information that we have, and we come over here and set that up. So we know it's 6,000 here. We can put that in there. Keyframe, what does it say for keyframe? Let's keyframe, let's say we're running this one here. So keyframe, the B frames are 2, keyframe are 2, so 2's in there. We can do quality or max quality. If you're losing, if you're dropping frames when you're live, you probably want to bring that down to quality. So we can run max quality to start. B frames are already at 2, and then we hit apply and OK. So we have the settings for that. So we're pretty much set, right? The only thing we'd have to change, because we know we could run 60 frames, we can go back to video and come here and run it at 60 frames or 5994, which will show up at 60 frames as well, right? Light changes there, okay? And now you're pretty much ready to go on that front. So now it's just deciding when to go live, your scheduling and stuff like that. And you can go from there. All right, so we got our data. We set up everything in the OBS and the settings section for our bitrate, our resolution. All that stuff is already set up. The last thing I want to show you is when you're live, what you can check to make sure your stuff is running optimally. So this website here, the Twitch Analyzer. Check the quality and stability of your twitch.tv stream with this free analyzer tool. I've done this test and I have the settings to show you what it should look like, your ideal setup when everything is running and you run this live. So basically here you can either put your URL or the name of your channel here and you hit go, and then it will generate some information for you. And here's what this information looks like. So let's just show you that right now. When you set it up, it shows you these results, okay? And green checks are good. Green checks are definitely good. So it shows you the quality of the stream, how it's running. It tells you the name of the stream. You could do this for any stream that is live, okay? So if you have a streamer that you like to watch, you can put their name in this analyzer tool, and it will let you know if the streamer is running really good or not so good. Okay, so some of the things to look forward to here is we already know we're running at 9 megabytes with the upload, so 6 megabytes for us is going to be no problem, right? You can either run it lower if you wanted to, 45, 3000, that's up to you because you have plenty to work with. You're running at 60 frames, right? So that should be stable. Okay, so that'll show you 60 frames or any frames that you're running in this section here. It'll let you know if you're seeing if there's drop frames happening, okay, which will cause like stutter and stuff like that for the individuals watching the stream. Your keyframe, it'll let you know if that's good or not so good. And then it also lets you know where your stream is available and how good it's running or if it's okay. Okay, so when I ran this test, drop frames were no issues. Bitrate stability didn't have any issues there. It also talks about where the bitrate is stable. Okay, so you can actually bring down the number in your OBS settings to match that, so it's even smoother, and it tells you the deviation of that. Okay, and then right here it gives you some information. Stream at 1080p 60 or higher can cause playback issues for some. But we gathered a whole bunch of data before we even went live, and we applied all that data in OBS, so we shouldn't have that many challenges with the stream actually running. So page 2 of this particular thing, let me go back here. So page 2 of this thing looks like this, okay? Talks about the audio levels, whether it's high or low, and my audio, as I'm speaking on the microphone, if I have music playing, the music will automatically fade, and then, you know, you'll hear me, and then once I stop speaking, the music will come back up. So that, maybe I'll do another video for that. We'll see. But at any rate, 1920 by 1080 is what I was running at the time. 59 frames per second tells you the stereo, tells you the hertz that I was running, total bitrate that was going out, the profile that I was running at the time, the stream uptime during that time, and if I had transcodes, so whether that was a 160 or 480 or, you know, whatever those numbers are, leading up to 720, or if you have another number in there, 900, or some individuals will have 936, all the way up to 1080p, which means that other individuals with limited bandwidth can still watch your stream because you have those options available for them. And it tells you the quality of the stream, if it's good or okay, based on the territory that the stream is available at. So we did all our data. We put all our data in the system. We put it in the settings for OBS. We knew what we were working with before we opened OBS. And then from there, we checked our information while the stream was live to see how it was running. And if you apply all these pieces of information as building blocks for the stream. And this could be foundational for any streaming platform once you understand what their settings are. But if you apply those building blocks, specifically this tutorial for Twitch, I think your stream will run really, really well. And I think that's all we have for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. And I look forward to doing more videos like this as I learn more about Twitch and other platforms and even other tutorials that I want to do for you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Please share it, and we'll see you on the next video.